welcome to my Notes Oracle DB YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about what are the errors can be occurred during the PG repack activity. Here I have mentioned some of the errors which may possible to occur during this PG repack activity. The first error is PG repack version is not installed the database, which means the PG repack has been installed on the bastion node level, but those extension is not created on the particular database. Let's see. I'm going to connect my database. So here actually last time we had performed our PG repack activity against this particular DB. So here that extension has been created. Now I'm going to drop this extension. I have dropped this particular extension. Let's we perform this PG repack activity against this particular my notes DPA. I'm just verifying the PG repack installed version. So let's we perform try run against this particular database table. Okay, -u postgres -d my notes -d my notes Oracle DPA. We must use -k, otherwise we will get the no super user privilege error. So my table name is any table we can perform, not only this table. Last time we have performed in burritos. Now I am going to perform against this accounts table. So if you see here, it throwing an error called the PG repack version is not installed the database. The actual error occurred is, we already know the extension is not created in the database. So that's why we are getting an error. So if we created this extension on our DB, so now I am going to perform once again. So you can see here actually we got one more error. We can discuss it. So now that error has been disappeared. Okay, so the next one is the program PG repack version 1 does not match with the database library, which means if we are going to install the PG repack by default, it will install the latest version of the PG repack at our bastion level. So we make ensure if we are going to perform the PG repack activity, so what is our database version? Those version would support which PG repack activity, PG repack version. So for example, the PG repack we are going to perform against the Postgres 12.7. So it supports PG repack 1.4.5 only. So if we are going with that above latest version, it will throw an error like the PG repack version does not support. Okay, the next error is, we know like P relation table must have a primary key or not null unique key, which means as a prerequisite of this PG repack activity, our table should contain either a primary key or unique not null unique key. So here my accounts table, I am just to describe this particular accounts table. So this table doesn't have any primary key or not null unique key. So that's why we are getting this error. In case if we are going to verify this particular thing on the burritos table, so this burritos table contains a primary key. so it will allow to perform it. Now I'm just removing this table, just copying this Pareto's table. If you see here, we got an output repacking table on this particular table. So always we have to keep in mind, whenever we are going to perform the PG repack activity, we must ensure that PG repack extension should be installed on our database. Also, the particular table or the particular tables should contain a primary key or not null unique constraint key. Okay, so the next error is, we already covered this one. Yes, so most of the time we can see this particular error. So what will happen whenever we are going to perform a PG repack activity against any database objects or tables? So at the particular time, due to the network glitch or the bastion timeout session, because when we are performing the huge table against this PG repack, so after some time it may got disconnected. So at the time, if you are going to reinitiate it, this will throw an error, which means that previous trigger has been exist on the table. So due to that, if you are going to reinitiate against the PG repack against on the particular object, it will throw an error. So what we have to do? We can reproduce this error. So we already know our database as contains this particular thing. Now I'm going to just close this terminal. Okay, we already know once we install the PG repack, so the schema has been already exist. So after we initiated this one, so the trigger has been created here. Now I'm just duplicate this bastion, executed or reperform this PG repack. So we got an error like this, the table already existed trigger called a repack trigger. So what we have to do, we have to just, as we know, so once we install the PG repack extension, it creates at this PG repack schema, this repack schema. So what I'm going to do, I'm just dropping this extension PG repack, just using the cascade. So you can see why we are using this cascade. So in case that sometimes it is not allowing to drop the extension, so we are using the cascade. So you can see that output, so the log has been dropped as well as the trigger and that extension too. If you can verify this schema, only our public schema is exist. Now I'm recreating the extension PG repack. So once the extension is created, we already know that our extension version, supported version has been installed. So our database version is 12.7 and the PG repack also by default it will install 1.4.5. Now I'm going to perform the same thing. Okay, so once you drop the extension and you are recreating it without causing any error, this activity is performed, which means so whenever the session got timed out or like whenever you are going to perform against the huge database size or like object size, we have to keep our session should not exist or timed out, otherwise it will cause this impact. So for that what we have done, just we have dropped this extension using the cascade, then we are recreated it. So without any error, this activity has been completed. The next one is, so the PG repack activity, if you are going with the 5 or 10 tables, we should not execute parallelly, because sometimes what it will do, one table was executing or performing, the another table can make a log. So to avoid that, as per the support suggestion and the documentation refers, we have to perform the table of PG repack activity one by one. Some points we have to focus on this. The first thing is we have to make sure we are going to perform with that super user privilege only. Otherwise it will throw an error. So the next thing is the target table should have a primary key or not null unique key constraint. Otherwise it will throw an error, like it will not perform it. As a prerequisite we already seen it. The next thing is the PG repack may not be a good for a critical usage. So when for that what we have to do, we have to use that no-kill-backend or -d option, because sometimes if you are going with a particular or crucial tables against, at the time if we got like any other request on the particular table, that request has been by default killed by this PG repack activity. So to avoid that, what we have to do, we have to use this -d option. The next thing is during attempt cancelling the conflict statement, if it is not able to against this exclusive log in the lock in wait time. So some people were using that -t -t option for that this number of duration that particular table has to be contains. So my suggestion is we should not use that option. Instead of that, we can use the -j. The number of jobs can be performed. It will speed up our activity. The next thing is we have to use this -n or -dry run before to perform this PG repack activity to understand what would be has been repacked and existed. So we have to use this one.